So what if in the pilot episode, Transformers More Than Meets the Eye, Cliffjumper actually made the shot? The Autobots and Decepticons still crash on Earth, they still take on their vehicle alt modes, and they still look to recover themselves from the impact of their crash. This is all very much the same, except in this timeline, Cliffjumper lines up the shot, square on Megatron's face, and makes it. Megatron, who hasn't fully recovered from the crash, falls. Welcome to the other side of the Matrix.
The other side of the Matrix.
So where does this leave us? Or rather, where does it leave the Decepticons? The Decepticons are standing around in shock. Cliffjumper has taken out their leader with one clean shot, with all of them standing around there gaping. Starscream, why are you even there? Haven't you got a facility you should be robbing? The remaining Decepticons scramble and fire in any and which direction. Eventually, Soundwave, the next senior officer, calms his comrades down and sends Laserbeak out to start the chase between Cliffjumper, Hound, Laserbeak and Laserbeak's gun. The Decepticons would regroup and panic over the situation they're in, and ultimately start to argue about who should lead them, now that Megatron is dead and they haven't got the resources to repair him. Naturally, as with all things, Starscream nominates himself to be leader of the Decepticons, which has the Seekers' backing. The other Decepticons vote for Soundwave to be the leader, and rather than starting a squabble over it, the two of them decide to hold off for the time being, construct their base and gather what Energon resources they have. During this time, the Autobots learn of Megatron's fate whilst restoring themselves and their crashed ship. The Autobots spend this time much better, and they are able to bring themselves back up to full strength more quickly. The Decepticons, on the other hand, will fall into a state of disarray. Many times Megatron will prove to be the glue that held his forces together and ruling by fear. Now, with no clear-cut leader and no plan to speak of, conspiracies start to form and divides would appear within a Decepticon camp. Starscream and Soundwave would attempt to co-rule the Decepticons between them, but often this would lead to disagreements. Starscream would want to attack the Autobots head-on, while Soundwave, on the other hand, would rather gain Energon supplies to restore themselves. Eventually, they come to a compromise and get in touch with Shockwave back on Cybertron to inform him of the situation. Now the Decepticons are under a triumvirate of leadership between Starscream, Shockwave and Soundwave. Three of them comprise a plan to build a space bridge and transfer any Energon that they can find on Earth back to a depleted Cybertron. However, this proves difficult, as any attack that the Decepticons try to do to gain Energon from Earth's supply is thwarted by the Autobots, and the Autobots still hold the upper hand. With the Decepticons in bad shape, raiding whatever Energon supplies they can, the space bridge is finally built, and they can transport what little Energon they have back to Cybertron. However, it takes a lot of this remaining Energon to power the space bridge in the first place. After more failed raids, the Decepticons finally decide to abandon their plan to harvest Earth's Energon and decide to transport themselves through the space bridge back to Cybertron, leaving their wrecked ship behind. Once the Decepticons return to Cybertron, they return to the state of civil war that they left it in, and they're now fighting within this war without their leader Megatron to fight with them. It takes some time, but after the Autobots learn of this, they make contact with the humans and what their plans are to return to Cybertron to defend their world. The humans are kind enough to offer whatever Energon supplies they need to build a ship to return to Cybertron, because that's what the humans did in 1984. When the Autobots do return to Cybertron, this massively changes the tide of the war. Without Megatron to inspire his forces and lead from the front, the Decepticon uprising comes to an early end. That, on the other side of the Matrix, is what would happen if Megatron falls to Cliffjumper's shot in the pilot episode of Transformers. It's a short-lived story in the fact that could one well-placed shot end it for Megatron? Possible. We saw it in the original movie that a few well-placed shots could take down seemingly anyone. So who's to say that a massive cannon could not kill Megatron when he least expects it, probably at a point when he is most vulnerable. It would make for a bit more of a boring story without a long series driven out behind it and new characters being made all the time. But think about it, if Cliffjumper, the unlikely hero of the war, made that one shot, think how that would drastically affect the Transformers universe in many forms of media for years to come. But thanks for watching, and as always I will see you on the next one.